Hey everybody, what's up? This is your girl Dragon. It's time for a revisit to an older tutorial. This is basically a tutorial update around this older system that I built. I'm showing you how to basically reset score when a player respawns into the game. Now the older tutorial only went through the process of showing you if there's two players in the game and the player leaves, then it will reset the score of all players. But they want to reduce it and reset it per player. And that's what we're going to do today. In fact, I simplified the system. You guys can see here. And I'm going to go ahead and go through a quick play test so you can see what it looks like when it's working. And then go through the structure and then show you the settings. So let's do it. All right, here we are in the play test. Let's check it out so you can see that players are on individual teams. And when they spawn into the game, their scores are at 0. When the player makes an elimination, their score increases by 1. And that wall wasn't supposed to break there, but you know, and then so forth. Now when the opposing player makes an elimination themselves, their score increases as well, and so forth. So as you can see, as I'm respawning in the game, the score remains the same, and so forth. If I do choose to respawn on my own, the score still remains the same. The score is saved and it remains the same and doesn't change. Now, let's say the other player decides to leave the game and come back. All right, and player has left game and now player is coming back. Their score is going to reset to 0, and the player that's in the game, their score still remains at 2. And they can continue on, and so forth. So that's what we're building today. This is by player instead of resetting score for all players. Let me go ahead and let's go back to the game so I can tell you guys the structure. All right, so we have channel spawn events. When player is spawned into the game, there's some events that's going to take place here. And just to show, we're going to be registering them and enabling the score manager, the elimination manager, and so forth. We're also going to be clearing the save data on the save point device. And we'll go through those settings here in a bit more specifically, but those are the spawn events. So as soon as they spawn in, the save device is going to clear. They're going to enable particular devices that's needed for the systems to work. They're also going to be registered to a checkpoint pad. This is very important because you only want them to spawn in on the player spawn pad once. And when they're eliminated, they need to respawn on a player checkpoint pad. So this is very crucial for the system to work. In addition to that, when a player makes an elimination, the elimination manager handles sending an event to increment the score and provide it to the player. And if you want to put in a tracking system, this is additional. You can do that as well. And then once they complete a certain goal, you can give them an accolade, a little reward. That'll be really cool. When a player leaves, each player's spawn pad is set to reset the score and also via the channel spawn event to clear the data. So that's basically the structure. It's a lot more simplistic than the older system over there, because the older system is based off a number of players being in the game, and this system is not based off a number of players being in the game. It's based off if the player is present and if the player leaves. So it's a lot more simplified. So if this is what you're looking for, let me go ahead and jump through the settings. What we'll start with is the channel spawn events. Yo, what's up, brother? Yep, I am making a YouTube. This video will be exported to YouTube once I'm done. So you can see here for functions, we're going to transmit when receiving from player spawner pads. And you want to make sure you put both player spawns pads here. If you're going to have more than two, like I have, you're going to put them all right here. And then when they do spawn, we're going to send a few events to the score manager to enable, and the score manager to reset. Now this is per team. So we have team 1 and team 2, right? So we want the score manager for team 1 to enable and to reset, and then score manager for team 2 to enable and to reset. We're also going to enable the elimination manager, and if you're going to be assigning a tracker by team, this is where you want to put that. You also want to clear the data for player for the save point device, and then of course enable the elimination manager for both teams. I have one for team 1. Oh, let's see here. Should have just one in the system. Yeah, one for team 1 and one for team 2. So you want to make sure you enable both of those as well. On your save point device, it's important not to autosave, not to do auto load. You don't have to worry about saving health and shields or nothing like that. What you do need to worry about is saving score. So let's go ahead and put yes to that. And you can see everything else is no. All right, and then we want to save player when receiving from when a player makes an elimination. So you're going to bind your elimination manager on elimination for each team. So I have one for team 1 and one for team 2. We're going to clear data for player when receiving from the channel spawn events device, and that should already be binded, and so forth. All right, let's go ahead and look at the unit for team 1, and that's this unit right here. You see we have the player spawn pad, a player checkpoint pad, a score manager, an elimination manager, and again a tracker, which is optional. So let's check out that player spawner pad. You know, you can actually set this to no. That should be fine. And then when the player is spawned, you should have this binded already. We're going to transmit on the channel spawn events and then register them to the player checkpoint pad that they are assigned to, which is this right here. And there's no events unless you do want to add some. And then the score manager for team 1. And we're going to enable from the channel spawn events on receive transmit and reset from channel spawn events on receive transmit. We're going to increment when receiving from the elimination manager assigned to the team on elimination. So when they make an elimination, it's going to increment the score device and give the player a +1 score. So it's going to increment by 1, adding each time they make an elimination. All right, let's check out the elimination manager for team 1. All right, cool, right? And then enable and receiving from channel spawn events, which should already be binded. All right, and then on elimination, we're going to send an event to the score manager to increment and the save point device to save the player's score. And then if you want to, every player that spawns in the game, you can assign them a tracker. This tracker is just for team 1. I didn't do one for team 2 because, again, this is optional. If you do want to add that, these are the settings. And there's no functions aside from assigning, and they're going to be assigned it from the channel device upon the spawn event. So channel spawn events on receive transmit. No events unless you do want to add it, and this is the perfect place to add when complete. Send event to Alkalate device to give them an award once they complete that tracker. All right, that is the unit for team 1 with an optional tracker. Now let's check out the unit for team 2. Again, you can turn off respawn alive players. That's not necessary. And then when the players spawn, we're going to, of course, these should be binded, channel spawn events, transmit, and then register them to the checkpoint path they're assigned to, which is right here. All right, cool. Next, the score manager for team 2. All right, and then enable from the channel spawn events on receive transmit, reset when receiving from channel spawn events on receive transmit, and increment when receiving from the elimination manager assigned to team 2 when they make an elimination. And there are no events. All right, and then the elimination manager for team 2. And you see we're enabling when receiving from channel spawn events on receive transmit. And then on elimination, we're going to increment the score manager assigned to team 2 and save the player's score when they make an elimination. All right, so that is the complete system. It's a lot simplistic than the older tutorial. However, they are both working differently. This one is based off of if there's a certain number of players in the game, whether they're going to reset that score when they come back or not. And this is just based on if they leave the game, doesn't matter how many players are in the game, but when they come back, that score is going to reset. So it's based off of a per player instance. Let's go ahead and rerun the play test so you can see what we just built. Both players have 0 score. All right, and now it's 1-1. And let's see here, if I choose to respawn while I'm in the game, my score should stay the same, in which it does. If other player does the same, their score will stay the same as well. Now, if other player decides to, and see their score is the same, to leave the game completely, and then if they come back, join in progress, their score should go ahead and go back to 0, starting them back at the beginning, and other players can continue on with building their score. All right, awesome, successful test. And I also want to make another note that's very important too, is island settings and structure of the map. So this particular test, each player is automatically spawning on a team with a team size of 1. So to set that up, if you don't want to use like class selectors to assign teams and you want the system to assign teams, this is what you need to do. You see I have a max player of 2, max teams of 2, and team size of 1. So if you're going to have, like, say, like, you know, I don't know, 50 teams, right? You need to have, you know, 47 teams, right? You need to have the same amount of players to match your teams. And it doesn't, all right, 48. Right? So it has to be max of players matching your teams, and each team with a size of 1. What that means is when the players spawn into the game, the system will automatically assign 1 player per team. In addition to that, you need to designate your player spawner pads to the team. So you see I have 1 designated to team 2 and 1 designated to team 1, right? So if you have like 48 teams, then you want to make sure that each player spawner pad, this would be team 3, team 4, team 5, team 6, so forth, right? And make sure it is designated properly. That way the teams are assigned automatically by the system and you don't need to use a class selector or a class designer, right? I think that covers everything, and I do hope this tutorial has been helpful. If it has, please drop a like and a sub, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hey, you can't hear my my emote. What's happening? Because we have some bugs here. No worries. I'll see you guys later. Bye.